So our next topic is we have already seen what are enantiomers. Enantiomers are nothing but optical isomers, right? Then we have this when we know that there are some isomers. So obviously there should be a way to differentiate between two isomers. And here we know that there is no structural difference. There is no obviously there is no molecular formula difference, no structure difference, and even there is no difference in orientation. Only problem or only difference is in their optical behavior towards the plane polarized light. So the naming convention for them is a little different. So what we have here is there are two nomenclature system, that is DNL system and RNS system, right? So these are the nomenclature system which is specially for optical isomers or enantiomers. The arrangement of atoms or group of atoms which characterizes a particular stereoisomer is called its configuration. Stereoisomers you must have studied, right? In types of isomerism, that there is some structural isomer, then non-structural isomers are actually called structural means there is difference in structure. So if there is difference in structure, there will be difference in their chemical IUPAC name as well. So there is no conflict of name there. But if there is no difference in structure, position, or functional group, etc., then such isomers are called stereoisomers, where the main difference between the two is basically in the orientation or configuration or geometry. So such isomers are called stereoisomers, and the main differentiating factor there is actually configuration. So if it is a stereoisomer, their main differentiating factor will be called configuration. There is no other difference. So the two terms which are commonly used to describe the configuration of different stereoisomers are absolute configuration and relative configuration. Right? So absolute configuration means the actual arrangement of atoms or group of atoms in space of a particular stereoisomer. And relative configuration means the arrangement of atoms or group of atoms in the space of stereoisomers of a compound relative to the atoms or group of atoms of another compound chosen as our standard. It's not configuration, absolute and relative. So from the name itself, it is clear that here there will be some reference. So with respect to a reference molecule, we are trying to find the, or we are trying to differentiate the two different configurations here. So there is a with reference or a standard reference, but here it is purely based on that individual molecule. So we are dealing with configuration only, but here we are bothered only about the individual in absolute, and in relative we compare it or compare the molecule with the orientation or the configuration in a different structure, which is a standard structure or standard configuration. So in the absolute configuration of the standard, there will be standard, and for that standard there will be an absolute configuration. So, and that method should be some very well defined unambiguous method. Then the relative configuration of stereoisomers can be correlated to that, right? So for example, And the compounds which we see right now, those compounds will be related, repeated again when we'll come to the chemistry, biochemistry, that chapter. So in chemistry in everyday life. So in that chapter, these compounds will be repeated. So it is better to note down the structure of these compounds and remember this, right? So for example, consider lactic acid. So lactic acid means the structure is like this: COOH, there's CH3 here, and this is H, and this is OH. So this is a 3D structure actually. This is not in a plane. This is a 3D structure because the central carbon, as you know, it is a sp3 hybrid carbon. So these bonds, these lines are actually part of tetrahedron, but we are showing it on this paper. So this is a representation of 3D representation, right? So we'll understand this representation as well later. Now, this exists as a pair of enantiomer. Enantiomer means what? Now you have a mirror and then you find its mirror image. So how will the mirror image look like? It will have OH here, H here, COOH as there itself, and CH3. So this is structure 1 and structure 2. This compound is actually lactic acid, right? So why acid? Because it has a COH group. So if I ask you to give its IUPAC name, so it starts from this 1, 2, 3. So there are 3 carbons, right? And on the second carbon there is a OH group. So it is 2-hydroxy propanoic acid. That's what lactic acid is, right? So this is lactic acid, and you have 2 enantiomers, as you can see here. Why enantiomers? Because this carbon which you see here is a chiral carbon. Why chiral carbon? Because it's all 4 valencies are satisfied by 4 different groups. None of them are repeated. So that's why this is asymmetric carbon or asymmetric molecule, and this carbon is chiral carbon. That's why its mirror image won't be superimposable. You rotate it in whatever direction you want, but you won't be able to superimpose this mirror image on the original structure. So each of these enantiomers which we see here has a different configuration about the chiral center. So this is the chiral center and its configuration is different. And we have to observe what is the difference here. One of these will be called dextrorotatory while the other will be called levorotatory. So how do we know which one is dextro and which one is levo? So to solve this, scientists over a period of time have developed 2 different conventions. So one is DL nomenclature and another is RS nomenclature. Coming to the DL part. So earlier there was no method available for determining the absolute configuration of a compound. Therefore, it was all relative configuration of all compounds, and there must be a reference. As I said, if it is relative, there must be a reference. So the reference was glyceraldehyde, right? So our reference used to be, we are discussing right now, DL system. So in that we were using a reference, and that reference compound was glyceraldehyde. So from the name itself, it is clear it is an aldehyde. So how does it look like? It is similar to this lactic acid. Only difference is that here there is an aldehyde plus here there is one more OH group. So OH here and H. This is our glyceraldehyde. Now, if this is the structure, we have a mirror image for this, and mirror image will be like this. So now OH will be here, H will be here, CHO. This is the mirror image. You can see that it is these two are enantiomers, non-superimposable mirror images. The two enantiomers of this compound were designated D and L symbol or plus or minus symbol. So we had to design or come up with the reference. So it was decided that let us say that the first one is the D or plus and the second one is L or negative or minus, right? So this was decided. The plus enantiomer was given the symbol D and was assigned the configuration which we are seeing here, right? The first configuration. And the second configuration was assigned symbol L or negative sign. Now, what is the important thing about this, or how to differentiate it, or what is the main point here, is that in this OH group lies towards the right and H atom lies towards the left. So OH is on the right and H is on the left. This is its deciding factor. Initially, this was kept as deciding factor, right? So as you can see here, the OH group and H group lies, and the CHO lies at the top and the CH2OH lies at the bottom. So there is right, left, top and bottom. So in the top portion, there was CHO. And in the bottom, there was CH2OH. So this was our point of observation for D. And obviously on the other side, that is negative side, it was given L symbol, and this configuration is in which the OH is towards the left and H is towards the right. Right? So this was our reference. This is the reference. Now, how to use this reference? I mean, if reference means what? The other structures, you will try to compare with this reference structure, and based on that, you will come up with your conclusion that whether that structure belongs to, or that configuration belongs to D system, or I mean D category or L category. So next we have these rules for comparison. How do we compare these two? So that was again simple. Any compound that can be prepared from or converted into the D plus glycerol aldehyde, that is the one on the left hand side, the D plus configuration, will belong to D series. And similarly, any compound that can be prepared from or converted into L-glycerol aldehyde will belong to L series. Simple. So you have a compound, say C1 and C2. If C1 can be C1, suppose this is configuration 1, if this can be prepared from or can be converted to D, that is D plus, if this is possible, then this configuration will be called D configuration. This will belong to D series. And if the configuration can be converted to or can be formed from. That means again two-way. So if this is possible, so based on this, we actually find whether our new compound or configuration belongs to D category or L category. So what does that mean? That means simple. Suppose we have this glyceraldehyde of D configuration. That means OH on the right. This is our glyceraldehyde. Which configuration? This is D plus or D configuration or plus configuration. Now, if I use this and if I am able to convert this to some other compound, say for example, on oxidation, the same compound aldehyde, we will see this later, that this aldehyde actually gives a acid on oxidation. So this is glyceraldehyde, this is glyceric acid. So the glyceric acid which is formed here will be actually of the category D plus. That's what we mean, or that's how we decide whether the compound or the configuration is or belongs to D series or L series, right? So same thing can be done for lactic acid as well. So in the lactic acid also, as you have seen above, the one on the left is actually D plus and one on the right is actually L plus. Right. Now, the above this thing which we have seen, the absolute configuration of a large number of optically active organic compounds are now available, right? So earlier we didn't have technology to find out what is the absolute configuration. So what we did was we were dependent on this relative configuration. But now even we have this absolute configuration available. Plus, there is one more thing. Sometimes the same compound can be correlated by a sequence of reaction to a known D compound and by a different sequence of reaction to a known L compound. That means we from D to D, we saw this right. From D plus, we got D plus configuration. But there sometimes it is possible to get L plus from D plus, and I mean L minus from D plus, or D plus from L minus. Even that is possible through different chain of reaction. That is possible, right? So that is one thing. Second thing, you have to think about reactions in order to give it some, in order to finalize which configuration belongs to which series. So that is little troublesome. Generally, we don't do that. When we are naming something, we don't rely on what reaction it is going to take part in or how it is going to behave in a reaction. Till now, whatever nomenclature, IUPAC based nomenclature we have done, we had no idea of what is its or what was the chemical property of that particular compound. But this method needs, or it makes it necessary or compulsory for us to know the reactions. So that is troublesome. Now, because of these two limitations, we came up with a new concept or new system of differentiating, and that system is called RS system. So our main system is actually this RS system, not the DL system, but we should know what is DL system. That's why we have covered that. DL system as well. Now, what is RS system? Again, one will be given R configuration, another will be given R configuration. Question is, what will belong to R and what will belong to S? So this RS nomenclature is an unambiguous system developed by actually a scientist whose name is RS Khan, right? So the main scientist is RS CAHN. So this R and S actually comes from here, right? So this system actually, the designation of absolute stereochemistry of any optical active compound according to this system involves some steps, right? So the first step which you have to follow, let us see that. A priority number, that is, we assign priority like 1, 2, 3, 4 to each of the 4 atoms or group of atoms attached to the chiral carbon. So obviously you have to identify if there is an chiral carbon or not, that we have discussed already in the previous class. That is, if there is a chiral carbon, then only there will be optical activity. Then only there is this question arises of whether it will belong to configuration R or S, D or L, right? So first thing, obviously here also we have to do the same thing, that is we have to find whether there is an optical activity or not. In order to confirm, in order to be sure that there is an optical activity, we must find out if there is an asymmetric carbon or not. What is asymmetric carbon? A carbon having all 4 valencies attached to 4 different valence, 4 different groups. So first we do that, and then what we do, we assign priority to these 4 different groups. There will be 4 different groups, so there won't be any tie in ranking. So be sure about that, because 4 groups will be different. So 4 groups will have 4 different ranks. So a priority number like 1, 2, 3, 4 is assigned to each of the 4 atoms. Right? Now, what is the rule? How do you decide the priority? So there is rule for that, right? So there are different rules. Let us see what is rule number 1. If the 4 substituents attached to the chiral carbon are all atoms, their priority numbers are decided on basis of their atomic numbers, right? If all are atoms, means single atoms and not a group, then the is decided on the basis of the priority on basis of atomic number. And 4 different elements, 4 different atomic numbers, there cannot be a tie, right? So that's how we are seeing here how ambiguity is being removed. So this is the first step. If there are only atoms, then we will be doing this. The atoms of higher atomic number gets the higher priority. Higher atomic number means higher priority, right? So for the compound, for example, if we have bromo, chloro, iodo, methane, right? Let us understand this by example as well. Suppose we have a compound called bromo, chloro, iodo, methane. So from this name, it is clear it is methane. So there is only one carbon and its 4 valencies, and the 4, I mean, this I have written it like this, but and we know what all things will be there. There will be bromo, there will be chloro, iodo, and hydrogen. But this is not the Fisher projection which we have seen earlier. If we have to use that projection method, then we'll write it like this, right? So there is this bromo, chloro, iodo, and hydrogen, and this is the central, and you can see this is a chiral carbon. Then now what is there? We have to give the priority based on atomic number. So whose atomic number is least? It is hydrogen. Whose is highest? Bromine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, right? So iodine has the highest atomic number out of these, so it gets number 1. Then bromine, then chlorine, and then hydrogen. So this is the priority. This is how you define or how you find out the priority. Now, if 2 atoms attached to chiral carbon are isotopes of the same element, the isotope of the higher mass number will get the higher priority. It is possible that there may be isotopes. If there is an isotope, then the isotope with the higher, so that is a tiebreaker if there is a tie like this. If isotopes are there, then atomic isotopes are those atoms whose atomic numbers are same. So how to break the tie? So now mass will be the tiebreaker. Right. So that is the rule number 1. That is based on, that is if there are only atoms attached. Second rule, if the relative priority of 2 groups attached to the chiral carbon cannot be decided on the basis of rule 1, it may be decided by comparing the atomic numbers of the next atoms in the group. That means if there is a group, then how we are going to do that is the atom which is directly attached, there may be some other atoms if it is a group, there will be some other atoms attached to the atom which is directly attached. So now you go and see the atomic number of those attached atoms or indirectly attached atoms. So it may be decided by comparing the atomic numbers of the next atoms in the group. And if there is again a tiebreaker, then you move ahead one more step. So you keep on moving ahead to outwards from the chiral carbon to the first point of difference. So wherever, when you arrive at the first point of difference, that is the tiebreaker. Or what does that mean? If the first atom attached to chiral center is same in both the groups, compare the atomic number of the atoms attached to each of these first atoms. So for example, say 2-butanol, right? So 2-butanol, I'll write the rule later. Let me first explain it. Suppose if it is 2-butanol, this is common name. So that means what? There are 4 carbons, right? There are 4 carbons. We have all, so this means this is the functional group all. That means this is the second carbon. So first carbon is here, which is CH3, CH3OH, right? Okay, then let this be our second car, and then here, so 1 carbon, 2 carbon, 2 carbon more, so that is CH2. So there will be H here and H here, so that's why I'll write CH2, and then again one more CH3 group. So this is actually like this, right? There is OH group attached here, and there is H and H attached here, and then this carbon has H, H, and H. So even if there is OH here, there is H on the opposite side, and here there is CH3. Now if you see this, the carbon which is asymmetric, first we have to identify which carbon is asymmetric. So this carbon is not asymmetric because it has 3 hydrogens which are same. Even this is not, sorry, coming to this is not asymmetric because this has 2 hydrogen common. This is not asymmetric because it has 3 same or similar groups, in this case hydrogen. So the only carbon which is asymmetric is this carbon. So you must be, this question must have come from your side, that why this 2-butanol is written like this. It is written like this because of this. This carbon is the chiral carbon or the asymmetric carbon, right? And then we have 4 groups attached to it: hydrogen, OH, CH3, and CH2CH3. Now what do we have to do? We have to assign or priorities to them. Obviously H is the least priority because that's atomic number is 1. So out of 4, let's give it priority of 4, the least priority. Priority is nothing but ranking. So its rank is 4. I think you understood. 4 is the least. 4 is not the biggest. 4 is the least. Its atomic number is least. Right. Now we have 2. That is 3 left. That is 1, 2, and 3. Now see, to this chiral carbon, the directly attached 3 other components or the atoms are what? C, C, and O. So out of C, C, and O, right? I'm talking about this C, and this O. So we go there and we see that, okay, out of carbon and oxygen, oxygen has the highest or the higher number. So that means that will have the higher priority than this carbon and carbon. Correct? So we have to distribute 3 ranks, 1, 2, and 3. So that means out of that, rank 1 will go to oxygen. Now what do we have left? We have rank 2 and 3. And because both are carbon-carbon, so now we have to think about what to do. Now see the carbon which is attached here. So this is the carbon and both have same atomic number. So now see the neighbor of these carbon going outward from the chiral carbon. So this top carbon has 3 hydrogen and this carbon has only 2 hydrogen. So 2 hydrogen will cancel those 2 hydrogen, right? So 2 hydrogens of this will actually cancel 2 hydrogens of this. But now there is one H here. Who will decide the rank now? The next neighbor, which is H here. And who is the neighbor here next? It is C. I hope you understood. This carbon is actually attached with hydrogen, hydrogen, and carbon. So there is a carbon here. And this carbon is attached with H, H, and H. So this H cancels, this H cancels. Now this H and this C will be competing. So obviously this carbon has higher atomic number. So that means what? Now out of these two, carbon will have higher rank. So we have already given rank 1 and 4. The ranks which are remaining are 2 and 3. So out of that, 2 comes here and 3 comes here, right? So let me write this in a clear way. This is OH, this is CH2, CH3, this is CH3, and the last one is H. So there are various points here. Why this carbon is chosen as Why the structure is chosen like this? Because this is the only carbon which is asymmetric or chiral carbon. Then the ranks. So in order to decide rank, oxygen, direct connected atoms are oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, and carbon. So oxygen gets the first rank, hydrogen gets the last rank. The carbon and carbon we have to decide. This carbon has three hydrogen, the top carbon, and the side carbon has two hydrogens. So two hydrogen will cancel each other, and there will be one hydrogen on the top, and the next neighbor of carbon will be a carbon. So that's why this will have higher rank and this will have lower. So this is how we name it, we number it. So first was what? First was the atomic number. Second is if there is a tie in the directly connected atoms, then you move ahead to the next atom and try to resolve the tie, or try to break the tie based on the atomic number of the next or neighboring atoms. That we'll do. Okay. Now some other rules in the same thing, that is sequence rule. The third rule is, or it says that the double bonds and triple bonds are treated as if they have duplicate or triplicate single bonds. It is done. Why it is done like that? We have decided to break the tie based on, or assign the ranks based on only the atoms and their atomic number. So if there is a double bond, say for example, or multiple bonds, say for example, if there is something like this. So this I will consider it as C single bond A and single bond A. Right? So that is how I am going to decide, or that is how I am going to break the tie. So I think just 1 minute is left. So